It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege of interviewing the Tabor Bluejays head volleyball coach, Coach Adam Brewster. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
Can you talk about how you knew that you want to get started in coaching in college volleyball?
Yeah, so I knew from a pretty young age. I was probably like 12 or 13 when I decided that volleyball was going to be my thing. I'm from a big family. I'm one of 7 children, and we all play volleyball. 6 of us have played in college, and 3 have played professionally. But that wasn't always the case. We used to be big basketball people. But when I was like 12 or 13, I quit basketball, and I was like, I want to go to the Olympics and play in volleyball. Um, and then once I started like pursuing that, I realized that it was like volleyball was going to be something I was around forever. So the coaching natural progression from the passion of wanting to play for as long as I could.
What was that like coming from a volleyball family where most of your family has played volleyball?
I think it did a lot for me. Like it gave me a lot of unique experiences that other people don't have because there was no difference between my home life and like my competition, because it's like we played over the fence in the backyard with each other because there were 7 of us. It's like we had enough to play, we played doubles, we played triples. And so we played over the bunk bed in the basement inside. We set up the chairs in the dining room and played over the chairs when we were little. It's like, so I have no memory of not playing, just like I don't remember taking my first steps. We always did it. And so I think that was an advantage versus other people who have to like pursue it and like find, a club or make their high school team and it was like we were homeschooled, so we didn't do that. And so we really just kind of taught ourselves, which as I get older, I realized that that's more unusual of a skill than you would think of like being able to teach yourself something. And I think the homeschooling plays into that because we taught ourselves in a lot of aspects. And then the volleyball side, it's like I learned by like watching my sisters and playing. And I'd always try to hop in and play with my oldest sisters, and they'd be like, "You're too little." And I was like, ugh. So I had to like sit on the side and like it really forced me to be good because it was like they would only let me play if they were good because they were like 10 years older than me, So they were like, if you're too like weak or bad, you like can't play. And so it really forced me to get competitive and, get better.
What was that experience like going to Lindenwood and getting to compete collegiately in volleyball?
It was a dream come true. Like I said, when I was 12 or 13, it was like I really latched on to this dream of playing. Again, it was in the Olympics, but obviously the steps to that for people in America is to play collegiately after high school and club, because that ends at 18 here. Whereas other places around the world, it's all a club sport. It's not in the university system. So if you're good, then you play club from the time you're little, like all the way through your life, you retire. Whereas here, obviously, club ends at 18, then you have to play collegiately. And then historically, we've had to go overseas because we haven't had professional leagues going here in America. So getting to play at Lindenwood was the first step in like my dream coming true. So I was really excited. I was really like ready to rock. I just wanted to be the best.
How is that feeling like getting to put on that Lindenwood volleyball jersey?
It was cool. It just kind of fell into place because Lindenwood, I was a fashion design major, and to play Division I NCAA men's volleyball, I played during a period where there were only 53 men's Division I and II programs, and because of that, Division I and II still to this day play in the same division. And so there's no differentiation like with women's volleyball. And out of those 53 schools, there were 3 options that I could do fashion and do volleyball at that level. And so it was really limited. And it was Lindenwood, Ohio State, and Sacred Heart in Connecticut. And then I had a job lined up because I actually lived in St. Louis my senior year of high school by myself because there were more volleyball opportunities than in Kansas City, where I was born and raised. And so when I finally got to put on the jersey, I had a lot of connections to Lindenwood. Lindenwood was a program that started in the NAIA and slowly moved up through Division II into Division I. And they had been really good as an NAIA school. So there was a legacy of good volleyball, but it was exciting because it was like, okay, can we be good in the NCAA? And in the time I played, 2015 to 2019, the MEVA, which was the conference that Lindenwood competes in, was the most competitive conference in the country with national champions back to back coming out of that conference. So it was like, I really felt like I had made it when I arrived there and put on the jersey and played.
Coming out of college, what was that experience like going to Ottawa and being the assistant women's volleyball coach and the men's volleyball coach?
So actually, I guess that is something I should have said. I was just the men's assistant at Ottawa. And then during that time, I was also the women's assistant at Mid-American Nazarene, which is a school nearby. So it's like I assisted the women in the fall at MNU and I assisted the men in the spring at Ottawa. But that was cool. It literally was just more of a favor to a friend because the head men's volleyball coach at Ottawa was like a men's volleyball player from the area around Kansas City where I was born and raised. And he had played at Ottawa. And so he was just like, hey, I need someone to come in and help. And at that time, I was still thinking about going back overseas and playing professionally now that COVID was wrapped up. And so it was a cool opportunity. I have a big heart for men's volleyball. I want to see the game on the men's side continue to grow. And so to be involved in a collegiate men's program as a coach, it was like a passion project, for me.
What was that experience like being a coach at two different institutions?
It was interesting. I mean, the cultures of schools change, based on the leadership, coaches make a big difference. Schools, like rules and affiliations, especially with these smaller NAIA schools. Obviously, there's usually a religious aspect to it, where this school is associated with a denomination. But MNU and Ottawa are very different places. MNU is, in a really wealthy area of Kansas City. And so that brings its own thing. And Ottawa, is a small town in Kansas. And so the clientele is a little different. Expectations are a little different. People's backgrounds tend to be a little bit different. So it really taught me a lot to be able to assist in both at the same time. It was like going from one gym to the other. There was a lot of adjustments that I had to make in how I coached.
How was that experience like getting to coach on their club level and coaching for Team USA?
Yeah, so I do want to clarify that it's Team USA, not like our national team. It's an organization that travels in the summer with high school players under 18, so we call them juniors. And they go to different countries and tour and play in other countries like junior national championships and stuff. So getting to do that was really cool because I got to go to Australia, which I've never been. And I got to see Sydney and the Opera House, and we went down to Byron Bay and I got to go surfing. I got to go kayaking with dolphins and whales. And at the same time during the day, coach volleyball and see what volleyball was like in Australia. And it's just so funny how the sport changes in different countries, but also the similarities. It's like volleyball is still volleyball, but it is a little different when you go to another country and see it.
What was that transition like for you going from being an assistant coach at Ottawa to getting the head coaching job?
So to go from being an assistant to head I didn't think it was super scary. I kind of expected it, that at some point I knew I was going to transition to a head coaching role and be in charge of a program. And so to me, it felt like a really natural progression. And with the work that I had done as an assistant at Ottawa and MNU, I had some head coaches. I had two very different head coaches, first of all, at those two universities. And so I was really able to kind of pick and choose what I saw that worked for those head coaches and apply it to my own style of how I envisioned myself as a head coach. But it really has felt like a natural progression. And the only hard part about it has literally just been the workload of like being the decision maker in all things versus as an assistant, obviously you're more of just a doer. Whereas being a head and having to make decisions on how we do things, what we're going to do and all of that has been probably the most difficult part of the transition.
What was that feeling like getting announced to be the next head coach at Tabor?
It was really cool. I got a lot of like, my family was really excited for me. A lot of my friends in the volleyball world were really excited for me. For like 6 months, it's like anytime I saw anyone in the volleyball community, they were like, congrats, that's so awesome that you're ahead now. And so yeah, it was just a good feeling. Like I said, it just felt like another step in the progression of life and my childhood dream of being in volleyball.
After getting announced to become the next head coach, what was that feeling like stepping onto that court for the first time as a head coach?
Um, it was funny. I did get a little nervous. I remember my first match in the fall because I haven't seen a head coach. I mean, just in general, I don't tend to see myself in the world. I get referred to as like odd or quirky or unique a lot. And so stepping in, especially in a leadership position, as a person who has seen themselves or been identified as a bit of an outsider, um, I did have those thoughts run through my head of like, ooh, how should I like sit or like how should I stand? And people have a lot more critiques of head coaches of like, you're not getting up and yelling enough. So like it seems like you're disinterested or like people have those things to say when you're a head coach, which didn't happen as an assistant, obviously, where it's just like usually people.
What was that experience like getting to build a coaching staff and the players around you?
That's the part I love the most about being a head coach is like the analyzing of people, trying to figure out the best plan forward with the people you have. And then when making additions through recruiting or hiring of staff, like trying to identify what's missing within yourself. You know, it's like, what are my weaknesses that I need my staff to be able to counteract? I really love that, like the psychology of hiring people, recruiting people, motivating people. Like that's what I find most exciting about the coaching side of sport.
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you started to build for the volleyball program?
Yeah, so I'm trying to figure out a way to support the community's culture. Especially, I've realized in my first year here at Tabor that being in small town central Kansas is a different cultural landscape than being in the metropolitan area of Kansas City. Um, and there are cultural differences that like can't be ignored, where it's just like people talk a little differently here, people have different expectations, the pace of life is a little differently. So I do find myself trying to find how to apply what the culture that I think is most successful and the culture that I just kind of naturally bring from within my own personality and my own life experiences, but figuring out how it's like, okay, what part of that can be applied to the culture in this little town and this small, Mennonite community. Um, and so mainly I'm just focusing on making sure that faith stays at the center of what I do as a coach, because I don't want to just make the volleyball program so much about faith that people who don't have a faith background don't feel comfortable playing on my team. But I do want it to be something where as people come here and as part of their educational and athletic experience at Tabor, that they're introduced to God, because he's a center of my life, and has been a source of a lot of comfort and, I don't know what the other word would be, comfort, and he's just central. And so I do want to make sure that that's a culture that I'm building here within the volleyball program, that people are addressing their spirituality. And then the other piece is I just want to be known for like being good is pretty much always what I try to do as a volleyball player and as a coach. So I'm really trying to up the level, expose the girls to all of my life experiences, how's volleyball in other parts of the world. We're watching a lot of film. It's like I want to make sure the girls are smarter volleyball players, they're better volleyball players, they're better athletes. And so building a culture of that kind of a work ethic is the third part, I would say.
Who are some of the teams in your conference that you compete against?
Yeah, so we're currently sitting at 14. And I don't know if I can name them all off the top of my head, but mostly Kansas. We do have York and Nebraska that's within our conference. We have Evangel and Avila, which are in Missouri, and then we have Oklahoma Wesleyan, which is in Oklahoma. But then we have the small NAI schools here in Kansas as well, McPherson, Sterling, Southwestern, Bethany, um, Ottawa. Yeah, I think that might be all of them. Friends are the teams that we're competing with here in the KCAC.
What is that home game atmosphere like when teams like York comes to home versus going to Kansas Wesleyan?
Yeah, I mean, every school has their own kind of atmosphere. I will say previously at MNU, where I was coaching women, we were in a different conference. And I will say that the environment at MNU was very loud. There was a lot of student involvement and stuff like that. And we're not quite there with Tabor. I think that has to do with just our program kind of struggling the last few years, and not being as successful. So obviously, like people want to come out and watch exciting matches. But I have noticed when playing, especially the close teams, like within 2 hours, like Kansas Wesleyan, McPherson, Friends, it's like we definitely get a little more turnout and the environment is bigger. But the further away a team is when they come to us or when we go to them, it seems like there's less and less of a team.
What does that recruitment process look like for those prospective student athletes looking to play collegiate volleyball?
Ooh, can you repeat that?
Mm-hmm. What does that process look like for those recruits looking to play collegiate volleyball?
Yeah, so I mean, it starts with just making sure that you're at a level that makes you valuable to a college volleyball program. Luckily, in the States, we have a wide range of volleyball opportunities for kids to continue to play post-college. Um, but at the end of the day, coaches at any level want to get the best players that they can. So making sure that you get a jump on your fitness as young as possible, get a jump on lifestyle things like nutrition, sleeping, hydration. All of those things often can be the thing that gives you a leg up on the girls that you're competing against for college roster spots. Um, but after just your preparation of trying to be the best player and person you can be, it comes down to being a good communicator, not being afraid of being rejected and told, no, we're not interested in you, or, oh, we don't have a roster spot available for you, and not let that discourage you from continuing to reach out and try to find a place where you can continue to live the dream and compete.
As a head coach, what do you look at in those prospective student athletes when out on the road recruiting?
Um, It's pretty broad. It depends on what positions we're looking for. It depends on within those positions, the athletes that we already have in the program, what their strengths and weaknesses are. Um, and then in general, it's like no one wants to be around a person who is like insecure or negative. So it's like I'm looking for confidence and I'm looking for someone who's critical, competitive, but in a positive way. It's like you can tell when someone's really thinking through and taking responsibility for their own actions. That's a big thing I look for. And then confidence is another one where it's just like if I talk to you and you look me in the eyes, and you can crack a few jokes and it's like you're likable and charismatic, it's like that goes a long way as well.
As a head coach, what is it like seeing those freshmen putting on that Tabor volleyball jersey for the first time versus seniors putting it on for the last time?
I mean, two different experiences. The freshman, it's more like when they put on the jersey, I'm just like, okay, let's see what this kid can do, where it's just like, I'm just like, oh, this could go good or this could go bad because you just don't know them very well. And you don't know what they're going to bring. And college is a really new environment for an 18-year-old. They're experiencing a lot more freedom and a lot more responsibility. And some kids handle it good, some kids don't. As far as seniors, I always get just a little emotional because I just really relate as someone who played at the college level. My senior year, it was so up and down and emotional, and it just felt like the end of an era, which it is, and which is always just emotional. So it's like when I see my seniors put on the jersey for their last match and for their last match. Um, I always just get like a little emotional. And I feel the weight of like, I hope that they are going to walk away from this better than when I got them here.
As a head coach, how is it like seeing those freshmen achieve their first milestones like first serves, first digs, versus those seniors achieving those last big milestones?
The freshmen, it's exciting, especially if they reach like cool milestones within their freshman year. The first of everything, like I said, it's more of just like, okay, if it was good, then I'm like, okay, hopefully she can maintain this. And if it's not great, then it's like, okay, she has 4 years to see if she can improve. Whereas seniors reaching milestones, oftentimes it's, did they make it to 1,000 digs as a little bit of, did they make it to 1,000 kills? Did they hit it? Did they make 2,000 et cetera? Or did they make all conference awards, stuff like that? I really love individual awards and milestones because while we are a team sport in volleyball, those things really shape people's character and can provide them the confidence to launch out into the world post-college in whatever they decide to do. And so I really try to celebrate those things and make sure the girls realize the work that they put in to achieve those things is a really valuable life experience.
As a head coach, what is it like seeing those seniors going on and playing professional volleyball, whether it's Athletes Unlimited or overseas?
Yeah, so I've only had a few players in my coaching career thus far make the jump from college to professional, and that's always cool to see. Um, it's just it's a real big difference, especially for American players to go play overseas. Like I said, because in the past we haven't had any American leagues, but now for the women to have options here, I'm really hoping to see girls being able to stay and play longer into their lives here in the States. But it's always just like an excitement thing. Because when you're sending someone off to Europe and you're like, okay, you try to prepare them as best you can with like, okay, this is usually how it goes in a rookie contract. This is the environment you're going to be in culturally in this country. Expect people to be like this. Expect the food to be like this. No air conditioning most of the time. It's just like funny little things like that is usually my like the talk I give them. But really, it's just a celebration of like, you made it. Like everything from here is just jelly because it's like, oh wow, you put in all this work to get to this point, and so few people do, such a small percentage. So it's just a celebration.
What have been some of the things you've been able to accomplish so far, and what are some of your future plans for the volleyball program?
Well, I don't know what I value the most as far as what I've accomplished, because any new thing that I've been able to conquer, I definitely hold close to my heart. Getting to play at the Division I level as a player was a big one for me. Like I said, a first step of the dream coming true. Getting my rookie contract to go play in Denmark was a big milestone for me. I would say the 2022 season I had at MNU was my most successful season thus far, being involved in a college coaching staff. And we made it to the Sweet 16 round of the national tournament that year. We had several All-Americans on the team, and they were girls who hadn't previously been All-American level in their previous years or at their previous schools, because a lot of them were transferred. And so that was just really cool to see. And it really made me be introspective on like, okay, why did this go so much better than other years?
What advice would you give those incoming freshmen entering their first year of college volleyball?
Don't go crazy. Like, don't, it might be fun that you're out of your parents' house and on your own for the first time. And it might be tempting to be like, okay, I can do whatever I want. You can't do whatever you want without consequences. So make sure your priorities are straight, making sure you're going to class, getting your homework done, taking care of yourself, getting rest, eating good food. And then just make sure you're giving your all to what you're passionate about. It's like, hopefully if you're playing college volleyball, you're passionate about volleyball. So it's like, don't hold anything back out of like fear and insecurity. Because especially coming into college, it's like it's 18-year-olds playing with 22-year-olds. So it's like as a freshman coming in, it can be intimidating. But I was like, but that's not a good mindset to come in to the sport with. You should come in being like, I'm here just the same as you. And so go for it. Don't hold back.
What advice would you have those players looking to play professional volleyball?
I would say it's a lot more about you as a person than it is about volleyball, because there are people that reach the kind of athletic milestones that professional volleyball requires. It's like professional obviously is the best of the best. So it's like, yeah, you have to be strong. You have to jump a certain height. You have to, most of the time, there are very few exceptions to like certain things. Like you have to hit the ball, a certain pace. You have to be able to locate, it's like you need to be deceptive as a setter, you need to be a good blocker. But the people who usually make it are people who are good at managing themselves and motivating themselves. So if you're not good at that, I encourage you to get better at it. And then I would say being a learner is usually the people who are the most obsessed with learning, no matter what it is, whether it's like nutrition, fitness, volleyball itself, language, it's just like entering another culture, especially if you go and play overseas, like entering another culture as a professional athlete. There's just a lot that's expected of you. Working with sponsors, it's like things that you wouldn't think about, of like going to sponsored dinners and you're the face of a club and these people are paying your contract. So it's like you need to be able to make a good first impression, you need to be fun, you need to be likable. And at the end of the day, professional sports is an entertainment business. And so it's like you have to kind of have your own niche and stage personality when you're on the court to really be successful in the long run.
What advice would you give those future head coaches looking to build their own volleyball program?
I would say make sure you know what you're good at and what you're bad at, and try to find people who are good at what you're bad at as quickly as possible.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you on social media along with the volleyball program at?
So I am like slowly becoming an Amish person. I don't have any social media. I don't even have internet on my phone. I literally just have a phone that texts and calls. But you can find Tabor Volleyball on social media at Tabor VBAULL. So V-ball, is our handle.
Thank you again, Coach Adam, for your interview, and best luck in your future at Tabor as the head volleyball coach.
Thank you so much for having me, Brandon.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Adam, for your interview, and best luck in your future.
Thank you so much.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.